In these uncertain economic times, it's easy to be worried about protecting your wealth, your hard-earned savings, and your family's financial future. Plunging interest rates, the devaluating dollar, and political unrest constantly threaten what you have worked hard to earn and all that you own. That's why now it's more important than ever to protect your assets and have the money you need to make your dreams come true. Welcome to the Global Wealth Fortress Report with successful global entrepreneur and wealth preservation expert Joel Nagel. Joel's helped thousands of people just like you protect what you have so that you can make even more and make your every dream come true. So, sit back and enjoy Joel Nagel's offshore expert advice on how you can live the good life at a great price, where the sun never sets on your financial fortress.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Global Wealth Fortress Report. I'm Joel Nagel. I'm coming to you today live from San Miguel Island, which is part of the Azore Island chains, which belong to Portugal in the Atlantic Ocean. It's New Year's Day, so I want to wish everybody Happy New Year. I hope that 2020 ended well for you and you're feeling optimistic about 2021. I know I am. I think there's a lot to be thankful for and there's a lot to look forward to. Having said that, it takes work, it takes preparation, whether it's with ourselves, with our assets, to be able to enjoy all of the things that you've worked so hard to accumulate during your life and during your career. So I thought I would talk a little bit today to give you my three main New Year's resolutions that everyone should make with regard to protecting themselves, protecting their assets, and positioning themselves to pass on their wealth to their heirs. I know there was a lot of P's in those in that statement, so let's just go through them one by one. Protect yourself. I mentioned, in fact, I finished my 2020 issue yesterday talking about the residency and citizenship programs. I spent a lot of time talking about those, and the reason I do that is because it's important. The coronavirus has shown us that in these days, governments can turn off your passport just like turning off a light switch. Okay, the U.S. passport at one time was valid in over 160 countries around the world without requiring a visa. At the height of the pandemic, it went down to just 26 countries, and it's actually hasn't gone up that much since then. There's still major parts of the world, Europe, for example, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Singapore, Russia. I could go on and on and on, where the average American simply can't travel as a tourist. What that means is, to be able to travel, you need to qualify in some way. And the easiest way to qualify is by having a residency or having a second passport in that country or in a region that is part of a country that's part of that region. So for example, my family, we have residence here in Portugal. That's why we're spending some of the holidays here in Portugal. It's easy for us to come here. We had to produce a COVID test to be able to board our flight, but besides that, it was very easy. Now we're in Portugal. That means we're in Europe. That means there's no checks. If I want to get on a plane tomorrow and I want to fly to Germany, France, Spain, Italy, basically I can travel anywhere within Europe because I have a Portuguese residence. So that's number one. Think about ways that you can protect yourself by adding a residence or citizenship if you don't already have one. For some people that already have a second passport, look at another region in the world. If you have a European second passport, maybe look at the Caribbean, maybe look at Latin America, maybe look at the South Pacific like Australia. I don't think you can ever be done with this. I think the more you expand your base when it comes to residency and citizenship, the better off you'll be, the better off your family will be. For some people that have children, do it now. Do it while your children are young. They're going to qualify based on your application. You're not going to have to invest extra money or time or get FBI background checks on your children. Okay, take advantage of the fact that these programs exist, and generally it's pretty easy for children to come along on the same application as their parents. So that's number one. Number two, diversify your assets. You hear the traditional investment advisor, stockbroker talking about diversification in terms of stocks, bonds, mutual funds. But what you really don't hear them talking about is global diversification. That means diversification away from your home currency. If you're an American, that means having non-dollar denominated assets. If you're Canadian, it means having non-Canadian dollar denominated assets. It means diversifying away from paper currency altogether, looking at alternative stores of value, whether it's gold, and silver, which have been real money for the last 5,000 years, and truly protect your purchasing power. The old saying with gold is, you can go back 100 years, you can go back 1,000 years. An ounce of gold could buy a finely tailored man's suit. And here we are, New Year's Day 2021, an ounce of gold sitting at $1,900 could get you a finely tailored man's suit. So what that means is gold really doesn't ever go up or down. It's a constant. But other things like the dollar fluctuate against it, and generally they fluctuate down. And over the last 100 years, we've gone from basically $30 to an ounce of gold to almost $2,000 for an ounce of gold. Silver, the same thing. Silver was the best performing metal in 2020. It was up something, I believe I read it was around 46%. We can't talk about alternative stores of wealth without mentioning Bitcoin. We know that cryptocurrencies are here to stay. Bitcoin is the granddaddy of them all. I must admit I was sort of late to the Bitcoin party, but I do recognize it for what it is. It's a finite amount of coin. That's an electronic coin. It's traded the same way other assets are traded. It's bought and sold. But there's a limited supply. The supply is never, ever, ever going to change. So, that means as more dollars are thrown to acquire Bitcoin, the price is obviously just going to keep going up and up. And we've seen that over the last year. At the start of 2020, Bitcoin was trading at about $7,000. At the end of the year, it's trading at over $29,000. That's an incredible 400% markup. I think you could be in other stores of wealth, whether it's art, whether it's real estate. Real estate, you have to be a little careful because I think real estate's going to have some winners and it's going to have some losers. The losers are going to be the big metropolitan centers, New York, San Francisco, where people are moving out in droves. They're high tax states, and I think one perhaps positive benefit that's come out of the whole coronavirus thing is basically people understand that they can work from anywhere in a remote location. So why would you spend hours a day commuting? Why would you spend enormous amounts of money buying property, renting property in these high expensive states if you don't have to? So that's those are other stores of wealth. Farmland, precious wood like teaks and mahoganies. If you look, for example, at a family office or a university endowment, let's say Harvard, you'll see all of these types of investments in their investment portfolio. It's because they're thinking about the next 50 years, the next 100 years, the next 200 years, and they want to make sure that their wealth increases, not only in dollar terms, but in real purchasing power. So my number 2 recommendation for a New Year's resolution is look to start thinking about diversification in a real way. Take some of the money off the table you've made in stocks this past year. If you are one of the lucky people that made 700% in Tesla, that's great. But take some of that money off the table. Look at some of these alternative stores of wealth and diversify. I beg you, diversify some of your wealth into these types of asset classes. Finally, I want to talk about estate planning. Estate planning is, some people think, well, it doesn't really matter. I don't have that much. When I die, I don't really care who gets my money. That's really not true. It doesn't matter whether you have a little or you have a lot. You worked hard to get it and make it. You paid tax on it along the way as you earned it, as you made investment income. It's important that you be able to pass along your wealth to whomever you want. If you have children, if you have growing children, those are the normal choices, but it doesn't have to be. It can be your friend, it can be your caregiver, it can be your alma mater, your church, university. I mean, you name it, it's your wealth. You should be able to do what you want with it. I see a lot of really draconian limitations on the horizon. The Biden transition team is already talking in terms of lowering the exemption amount, which is the amount that you can give away during your life or at your death, from the current $11.5 million, about $23 million per married couple, to just over $3 million, about $3.5 million, which would be $7 million per couple. They also have indicated they want to raise the tax rate from 40% once you max out that exemption to 45%. So basically half of your net worth after your death, once you use up your exemption amounts, is going to go to the government. Think about that. Plan for that. There's still ways you can create trusts, whether it's a domestic trust, whether it's an offshore trust. I personally like the offshore or the international approach because, you know, a lot of times I can kill a lot of birds with one stone. If I set that trust up overseas, I can probably diversify better and easier into foreign real estate, into alternative currencies, into precious metals. So I can get that kind of diversification. But also, if I create that structure and set up a bank account, brokerage account, buy real estate, do those things in other countries, frequently I can use that as the basis for my investment. So if I have to make an investment, let's say in Portugal, to be able to qualify for Portuguese residency, why not do that? You know, let's kill multiple birds with one stone. Let's create the right structure. Let's get the right diversification. Let's use it to leverage to make sure you have a second residency or citizenship. And those things can be done in tandem. If you already have, you know, one or two of these items, let's focus on the third. If you have none of them, it's not too late to get started. Let's you know, pick the one that is keeping you up late at night, whether it's your investments, whether it's your residency, whether it's your estate planning, and let's get started, okay? It's the time to start is truly now. I don't think things are ever going to get truly better. We're not going to see lower taxes. We're not going to see less political divisiveness. We're not going to see more open travel and more open trade. The world is going in a mode right now where it's hunkering down, where it's tightening up. So you have to be very proactive. You have to go after these things for yourself, for your family. Once you do them, I think it'll make it easier for you. You'll see that, you know, your investments will do just fine if they're globally diversified. You'll feel better about, you know, making sure that your wealth is there for yourself in your latter years, but also that it's going to go over easily to your children, grandchildren, or other heirs of your choice. So that's my resolution. Those are my action items for 2021. Protect yourself, protect your assets, preserve and pass on your wealth for future generations. Okay? Thank you for joining me on this special New Year's edition, 2021. I hope this year is a great year for you. I hope you achieve all of your goals and objectives. And I want to leave by wishing you, as I always do, health. I want to wish you happiness, and I want to wish you a wealth that can't be taken by others. Until next time, see ya.
Thanks for joining Joel Nagel and the Global Wealth Fortress Report, a whole new approach to asset protection and estate planning, so that now you can live the good life at a great price, where the sun never sets on your financial fortress.